Hi everyone, I'm Paul Tobias. We're here at Tobias Music in suburban Chicago, Downers Grove, Illinois. This year we're celebrating our 40th anniversary, and about 35 of those years have been with Taylor Guitars.
How about that?
I'm sure a lot of you have heard the big news coming out of El Cajon, California at the NAMM show this year in January. Taylor Guitars announced a big change in the industry, a big change with the bracing on the guitars. Now formally known as the V-Class bracing.
Yeah, my name is Rich, and I'm with Taylor Guitars. I get to work with the lovely Mr. Paul Tobias here at the beautiful Downers Grove store. And what we're really talking about, Paul, is it's Andy has kind of rethought the construction of an acoustic guitar. And, you know, to try to get this into a 2 and 3 and 4 minute description it's really hard to do.
Sure.
Because it's such a groundbreaking technology that a lot of people are still scratching their heads going things like, well, why didn't somebody think of this before, and why wasn't it done before, and all these kinds of things. But when you have a guy like our master luthier, Andy Powers, who he thinks about these things in different ways, and there had always been a compromise of the way guitars were built. And the compromise was always a cross between a strength and a flexibility. So what you've got going is that, okay, so what's the difference? What's the big deal? Well, strength normally brings you sustain.
Like a Les Paul.
Like a Les Paul. So if you think about a Les Paul, you hit a note, it's kind of like in Spinal Tap. You hit a note, you come back a half hour later, and it's still going, right? Now, on the other hand, you think about a banjo, and don't think too long about banjos, but if you think about a banjo, you will hit a string, it's very loud, but it decays right away. That's because the top of a banjo is real flexible. So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about there's always this compromise, because you can't have both. You can't have flexibility and strength until now. But now we do.
Yes.
So how did he do that, you might ask?
Well, it's interesting. With the articles I've been reading online, of course, I attended the NAMM show and saw some really cool demos on these. Again, a lot of people are kind of calling this a historic change in the industry.
We are. I mean, when you think about
it's a game changer.
It's a game changer, and the way that guitars have always been built lately means 150 years.
Yeah.
So what do we do? So how does this work? Well, the way that it works is that we've called it V-brace because the brace now looks like a V, and the way that it works is that the bracing actually comes down this way. And what we're doing is we're building strength along the center of the guitar, right down the center line. So by having the strength here, that helps build the sustain of the instrument. Because we're able to do that, we can now make the rest of the top be real flexible, and that gives you your volume. So we no longer have that compromise between, you know, the flexibility and the strength. We actually can now have them both.
Very good.
So that solved problem number one and number two.
So this guitar you're playing right now is the brand new K14 CD.
Yeah.
Builder's edition.
This is a really exciting guitar. I think that the way that this guitar came about was that, you know, Andy is, you know, scratching his head doing the things that Andy does, and he says, if I were to kind of build a guitar that had all of the attributes that I would want, what would I have? All right. So what we did was, you know, again, and everything started from scratch, and you know, and before we even get into this, let's just spend a couple of seconds here. When you think about the changes that Andy already made when he joined the company in 2011, all right, so the redesign of all of the 800 series,
Sure.
Getting the bracing of that guitar to respond so well and so groundbreaking.
Sure.
So you had the regular 800, then came 800 Deluxe, of course.
Deluxe.
But in between there, where there were some other great things that have happened, right? We did the Grand Orchestra.
Correct. Redid the 600 series.
The 600 series.
It turned a maple guitar into a very balanced guitar.
Yeah.
You know, maple was really bright back in the day, and now they added a whole level of warmth to the 600 series.
So we have a history of kind of doing things right.
Correct.
So here we go now with V-brace, and we've already talked about the strength and the flexibility and the volume and the sustain. But what ended up happening was that something else happened. There was an aha that happened, and the aha that happened was intonation became better. So everybody's going to go, there is no way you can change intonation without changing the physical nature of the
Sure.
guitar, the compensation.
Scale length
Yeah, and all these kinds of things.
You wouldn't change the distance between frets, but all that kind of stuff would affect
Yeah,
intonation.
so what Andy found out was that because of the way all of the notes are moving around, he was able to place, the difference between noise and music is order. Okay?
Very good.
So,
Can I use that?
yeah, you can use that.
Thank you.
It's almost like you want to take a cut here, but I was thinking about Pink Floyd's Money.
Sure.
If you've ever walked into a casino and you hear all of the buzzing and the machines that's noise. It's white. It's white noise, right? It's just you just want to turn it off. But listen to what Pink Floyd did, the intro of Money, and he took those noises and he made them into music. So that tune,
pretty good.
all that. So now we can take and we can make noise orderly to make music. So all of the notes, the different, the bad, let's call it the bad nuances of what was going on, have been self-corrected. And you can think about it like if I play this note, this note right here, the E note on the G string 9th fret, is normally the weakest note on a guitar. All right. So if I just hit this. Guitars are not supposed to do that. And the historical hasn't been able to do that.
It's usually just a fast decay.
It's a fast decay. All right. So this brings us up to the flexibility and sustain. So now in the intonation, normally it was always a compromise. If we start talking about just easy chords, easy open chords. So Paul, let's talk about this intonation thing a little bit. All right. So intonation is an interesting word. As Andy describes intonation, it's in tuneness.
In tuneness, I heard that in NAM.
Yeah, all right.
A new word.
Yeah, it's a new word. We're going to get a Wikipedia page, I think, and we're going to say in tuneness. Intonation is really the effect of how well a note is correct. Think about a violin or maybe even a clarinet. They don't. You can't change the length. You can't compensate anything. It's how well does that player make that note dead on the money. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's the intonation.
Sure.
All right. So the in-tuneness of the instrument. So guitars, us geeks that play guitars, and the longer we play guitar, the more we know how to compensate for a guitar that doesn't quite work right. And the G chord, the open G cowboy chord, is the primary example where you can demonstrate this. Normally, you play the Mel Bay G chord on page 7 of Mel Bay's Primer.
Chords.
One of my favorite chords, yes. And this is the correct way to play the chord. There is the 3 primary notes, your first, third, and fifth, all right? But here's what happens. You tune a guitar, and then you play the note, or you play the chord, but every once in a while, that note and that note just don't want to quite jive. They're a little bit off. So what do? Us guys that think we know what we're doing, is we take those notes out. It's almost unconscious that we'll take this chord here, but we make it be this, which is a G5 chord. The B notes are gone. But now we have a chord that works. Well, now with V-brace, I can play the real G chord. And there's no wavering. It plays it perfectly. Okay, so, well, that's interesting. Normally you tune a guitar to the key of the song you're playing in. So if I'm doing a gig and I know that I'm going to be playing in the key of E, I'll tune it normal and I've got a good E chord. But if I'm playing in the key of D, I might have to change the G and the B string. I don't have to do that anymore. All right? Where it really is fun is when you play chords that use open strings and then high fretted strings. Chords like, not only do you get sustain, but you get no wavering. There's no sour notes. You can even come all the way up here and play a chord that you would normally never play because it stretches 4.5 octaves. And I just want to make sure I have my fingers here placed correctly because normally I don't even do it either.
That's perfect.
And it's perfect. It's spot on. But this is an open fretted note, string. That's open fretted. And I'm clear up here on a G sharp. So I've got a B and a G sharp a long ways away. and there's no wave.
Right on.
So that's kind of the intonation of what's going on with fixing the intonation without fixing anything by compensating for anything. We already had that pretty much figured out. But now the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would have said, is now told. So that's intonation.
So outstanding guitar. A lot of new features on the Builder's Edition.
Yeah, okay.
The nice rounded edges.
Yeah.
No more sharp
Yeah,
edges.
yeah. So, Paul, let's talk about the Builder's Edition. All right. So you had just pointed out some interesting things about this. So Andy wanted to kind of do a guitar that he would take out and play and do some things that he always wanted to do. So you pointed out the rounded edges here, all the way around the guitar, even in the back here. So when it rests on your leg, you don't get that, that line all the way across.
Sharp edge, yeah.
The sharp edge is not digging into you. And of course, the inlays back here have been done totally different. By the way, the Builder's Edition is a Koa back and sides guitars, of course, solid. And then the top of the guitar is a spruce top, but it is Torrified.
There's another new word.
There's another new word.
Yeah, whenever I use autocorrect on my phone, it
comes
never
up,
reads
yes,
Torrified.
it comes up terrified.
Terrified.
Yes.
So we're not terrified.
We're not
this time.
terrifying this guitar. Yes, it's Torrified. So you probably already know the story about torrifying a top, so we're not going to really go into that. But basically, we've baked the top, so it stays
Pre-aged top.
stable, pre-aged top. What else really fun have we done here? Some really interesting things that I don't know if the camera can pick up, but this cutaway is entirely different. And it's actually, right now, this is a very hard part of the guitar to make, and Andy always wanted to do it. He finally figured out a way of doing it where it's almost like he put an armrest, just like we have an armrest here, there's like a finger rest
Yeah, just another
right up
beveled
here.
edge up there.
And we also cut this a lot closer here, and you might ask, well, why did we do that?
Why did we do
I'm
that?
so glad you asked. Because now, normally, now that we have usable notes,
Yeah.
so these notes now are usable.
Sure.
Because they're usable, we have to figure out a way to get to them,
Reach them.
reach
Correct.
them. Normally, you have to take your thumb out of position to come up here
Sure.
and play these. Now I can leave my thumb here. I can still, and I'm a small guy, I can still reach this note. I can get it to sound. It's a usable note, but my thumb is back here where it belongs because we have opposable thumbs, so we can press against the fingerboard and get these things to work.
Just
So
like
all of
playing
these
your
notes.
Strat.
Yeah.
Reach all the way up there.
Yeah. See, those notes actually ring out.
Sure.
So think of a big piano. I mean, you're hitting those high notes on the little teeny tiny strings, and the low notes clear over there. So you have a guitar that sustains here, and I can play this high E, and they're both sustaining at about the same.
Very good.
So that's what makes these guitars so unique and so special. So they need to come to Tobias Music.
Well, there is one here at Tobias Music right now, and more to come.
Yeah.
Outstanding guitar. Just the thought concept is just brilliant. We've gotten to know Andy very well the last 4 or 5 years. I think he's been with Taylor maybe 6 years now. Incredible stuff coming out of El Cajon, California,
Right.
and we're proud to be along for the ride with you guys.
Well, and we're happy to have Tobias Music. I mean, 35 years, that's a long time, dude.
Can you play that real quick? Just
Yeah, so if I just wanted to play a little
paint
bit
us
of
out a little bit with
Sure.
some live music.
live music.
Very good, Rich.
Okay.
Thanks for coming out to Tobias Music.
Buddy.
Thanks for watching. Check out our YouTube channel from time to time. We'll be adding more videos, and every time Rich comes to town, we'll definitely be adding some more with him.
Yeah, and you have a great Instagram page. You have
Instagram,
an
Facebook.
amazing website,
Thank you.
and a tailor room.
We are sitting here in the Taylor Showroom.
The Taylor Showroom.
Boutique showroom here in the Chicago area.
Yeah,
Come on out and see us.
Please do.
Thank you.
Thanks.